Recording in Welcome, everyone. My name is Trina Becker, and this is Beth Bergstrom, and we are your Speech Therapy PD presenters for tonight's EPIC case study on language processing. Before we get started with the presentation, there are a few items that I need to alert you to. This course is 60 minutes and will be offered for 0.1 ASHA CEUs. If you're joining us for the live course and your state licensure requires live CEUs, be sure to complete all sections of the course content page, including the one that says Complete Course, before the end of today on your Speech Therapy PD account. Disclosures for this evening. Our financial disclosures for this course include intellectual property rights and royalties from products on B&B, SLP, Teachers Pay Teacher Store, and on our website, bbboutiqueslp.com. We do not have any relevant non-financial relationships to the content of tonight's course. If you have questions tonight throughout the course, please write them in the chat box and we will address them at the end of the webinar. And that concludes our introductory material. So we're ready to start the course. As I mentioned, I'm Trina Becker and this is Beth Bergstrom. We both teach at Eastern Illinois University. We are instructors and clinical supervisors in the Department of Communication Disorders and Sciences. We both love to share our passion about our profession through presentations, social media, and through creating resources for SLPs. Tonight, we will be presenting on EPIC case study on language processing. Our client's name is Maddox, and he is age 10 and came to us with a complaint, parents did, with academic participation and success. So we're going to start first with our case history. Maddox was first referred to our clinic at age 5 in 2021, and this is what was reported on his case history at that time. He had overall delays in developmental milestones, delays specifically in expressive language, using his first words, combining 2 to 3 words, and engaging in conversations. He had prolonged use of a pacifier and sippy cup and had some oral sensory needs. He chewed on inedible objects and sucked his thumb to self-soothe. Mom and older brother had a history of speech delay. He was diagnosed with childhood apraxia of speech at age 3 due to his unintelligibility. He has a history of therapies, starting with EI for speech therapy, OT, and PT, and then he transitioned to preschool with the same therapies. His mom described him at age 5 as very shy. There were times that he will not even speak. However, once he gets comfortable with people, he will speak and he talks at home. She also reported that he overall had limited verbal communication at that time. In our university clinic, he began services at age 5 here and started with a focus on speech production. He had been working on intelligibility through EI and preschool, and we continued that. He had a resistance to participate. He was easily frustrated in therapy. He had poor self-regulation, but he started to improve once he became really comfortable with the clinician. However, he wouldn't speak outside the therapy room. So as he's walking down the hallways to our therapy rooms in our lobby, he would not speak at all. What little we knew of his expressive language was characterized by lack of semantic variety. So he didn't have a large vocabulary. He had a lower MLU, appeared to have some word finding issues, delays in syntax, and again, this theme of slow progress. He was described as imaginative and creative, and he always preferred to draw, so that was a strength for him. And when Beth took him over, this is her client, when Beth took him over, she was trying to figure out what is the primary problem? What do we do with this kid? Is the primary problem still speech intelligibility? Is it his expressive language with limited verbal communication, or behavior regulation? What's going on there? During therapy, he would crawl under the table, throw materials, tip his chair. He would sigh really loudly. He would sometimes growl, refusal to participate, would often shut down, and he was still mouthing items. Okay. Some things that we noticed at that time were some precursors for some language processing problems. So we were already kind of suspecting that at age 5, age 6, even though we can't really diagnose that till around age 8. But things that he did show as precursors, he had poor sequencing abilities in both receptive and expressive language, overall slow acquisition of vocabulary and concepts, beginning when he was really small, an ineffective short-term memory. He had slow receptive and expressive acquisition of WH questions. We know that he had poor intelligibility, so there was a delay in articulation and phonological development. Significant word retrieval problems, that word finding was still sticking out for him as an issue. Slow syntactic development with persistent error patterns, and overall slow pragmatic development with poor awareness of conversational rules. So overall, key findings from etiology: global delays early, the family history of speech and language, limited progress with early intervention, speech intelligibility was the primary focus in his early years of therapy. He was shy and timid outside of his family and even, in our clinic that he was familiar with outside of the therapy room. Overall limited verbal communication paired with poor behavioral regulation. He had some noted sensory differences and noted precursors for language processing disorder.
So when we first started with him, again, we focused primarily on that speech intelligibility with the supervisor that was with him before I took over the case. That clinician or supervisor and clinician did do some testing in 2021. They did a receptive one-word PVT, which he scored a standard score of 99, and then also an expressive one-word PVT, and he had a standard score of 73. So already we can see that very large discrepancy. It was a significant discrepancy between his receptive language and his expressive language, which kind of gave us some of that kind of hint of the word finding difficulties. We felt confident that he knew a lot of the vocabulary, but he was not able to retrieve that and express that. He did have that IEP. He was under the global developmental delay until he was 8 or 9, and then they switched that. We'll talk about that a little bit later. We also gave him the comprehensive assessment of spoken language. Almost all of his indices were more than 2 standard deviations below the mean. You can see the receptive was 61, expressive 54, the lexical semantic was 68, and then he had a 54 on his, what is
Syntax,
SI?
the syntax?
Syntax. Well, lexical semantic is the LSI. I'm blanking on what SI is. Sorry, everyone. It's a holiday week. It's totally, I'm having word retrieval difficulties as we speak. It'll come to me later and I'll throw it at you, and maybe somebody can tell me. We did a PPVT again, and you can see that it was a 67. So when you look at the comparison between the receptive one word, which is typically a lot of concrete vocabulary, and compare that to the PPVT, which is more abstract vocabulary, he did significantly worse on the PPVT. And that was something that we're going to have a trend of, is that we're never quite sure what is the true ability for Maddox. We did the test of everyday language development. He had a receptive language standard score of 72, expressive language score of 65, and spoken language score of 65. Basically, we tested and tested, trying to kind of pinpoint where the breakdown was, but we were really just getting poor results across the board. We were never quite sure what was his actual ability and what his performance was. We really needed to focus just on performance, right? We needed to, this is what he was giving us every day in the classroom and every day here in our clinic.
Trends, though, he did have, his receptive was higher than expressive, slightly,
yes.
on all the tests.
Yes. But very poor.
Yes.
Yeah. Because we were just having a really hard time kind of pinpointing the primary problem, and also just not making a lot of good progress that showed any kind of good consistency in skills. His mom requested that our autism diagnostic team here at our clinic do a full ADOS team evaluation. So we did that in 2024. I believe he would have been around 8 at that time. This evaluation showed that he did not meet the criteria for autism. We did more speech and language evaluation that really kind of led us into that idea of language processing disorder with some significant deficits there. The psychologist on our team diagnosed Maddox with general anxiety disorder and attention deficit disorder, combined type. Our OT also said definite sensory processing concerns with dyspraxia.
Beth, did his school also suspect autism? Is that what made mom think about that?
Um, school, they also were in the same boat we were. They just weren't really sure. I was collaborating a little bit with his speech language pathologist at the time, and she really did not feel like it was autism. I'm not sure what like the classroom teacher kind of was suspecting, but mom and dad were really the ones that were kind of like, we need to know. He was showing a lot of dysregulation. With some of those overlapping characteristics. And so it was really the parents kind of pursuing that. After we had that information and we were really feeling like we were looking at language processing, we wanted to get another kind of idea on exactly where that breakdown was in that continuum. He was struggling significantly with academics. We wanted to show kind of where he was with his phonological processing to see if we needed to spend kind of more of our time there or at the linguistic processing end of the continuum. So you can see here on the C-top that he had some very, very low scores, at least 1 and 2 standard deviations below the mean. His strengths were in kind of, rapid digit naming and rapid letter naming. Those both were within normal limits. So again, he knows the vocabulary, he knows the letters, but he really had a difficult time using them. We continued over those few years to do kind of more analysis of all of his assessments. He did have an LPT, a language processing test, done in 2003. At that time, he showed that he had a breakdown at the level of associations. I think I already kind of showed you that PPVT. We did compare that to an EVT, which was 60. We did a test of word finding. He got a descriptive label of very weak on test of word finding. We started to wonder if, his performance was kind of because he was not comfortable with the testers. Although, I had had him now for a few semesters and, definitely went in to help with the testing. But we were really starting to see some of that anxiety, some of that shutdown, and a lot of ADHD at this time. So we thought, let's see how he does if mom tries to elicit some of the testing. So we gave mom a little kind of quick tutorial on how to elicit the test of narrative language with some visuals to see if he could retell a story that she told, to see if he could generate a story about some pictures from the test of narrative language. And even some of the places that we broke down on the C-top, we wanted to see if mom elicited those things, would he do better? It was no longer standardized, but we just wanted to see how that would go. And really, we had no better result. I will tell you, it was kind of interesting for mom to kind of see that with her own eyes, where his major deficient areas were. Overall, we just got the feeling that he never quite took in the instructions and knew what he was expected to do. So I really have the feeling that every time someone gave him an auditory instruction, he really never really took that in, attached meaning to it, to know what to do with it. So he would panic and just kind of do his own thing, kind of have some dysregulated behavior, or just completely shut down. So oftentimes he would just go silent and not have any response at all. This was also kind of an important time where we discovered that he wasn't talking to teachers at all for a couple of years. So not speaking in school at all. At the time that we learned that, He was getting in-person speech therapy by the school SLP, and she saw him with a group of 2 other peers, and she was starting to make some really good progress during speech therapy. But other than that, he was not talking or responding to a teacher at all. Did not talk during the school day. So this was really concerning. Unfortunately, we'll move forward and tell you that that SLP left that school district and they brought in teletherapy, and he was on speech therapy via teletherapy. So I did collaborate with that SLP and trying to give her ideas and suggestions, but between attention and just no verbal communication, because of the anxiety, he wasn't speaking at all.
Yeah, and no way to develop the strong rapport with a person.
No. And there really wasn't one person in the school building that he had a strong connection with that could maybe sit with him, and kind of help facilitate those teletherapy sessions. So that was really frustrating for kind of everyone all around. He was, we all felt lucky that he had kind of this therapy here face to face in our clinic twice a week for 45 minutes, but we definitely all knew that it was not, enough. So some of our key findings from assessment are not much. We got, the only thing we know is that he was consistently dysregulated and he had consistently poor results across the board. Again, in your mind right now, you should be thinking about some clients where, you're just like, these tests aren't really telling me anything. It was really difficult to find an area that we felt like represented his ability level. Where were his strengths? We were not finding any tests that he was able to kind of show us that. Difficulty even in just completing any kind of assessment. And that happened even recently. We tried to re-administer the castle in the spring, I believe, of last year, and he still has a very difficult time attending to instructions and kind of knowing how to respond. So we just thought, let's stop assessing for a while with standardized tests, and let's get to work on finding where the appropriate level was that we needed to begin work. Testing takes a lot of time away from therapy, and we knew that we had problems. We just needed to kind of get started. So we kind of made that our goal, and our focus was to kind of find the cognitive load that he could handle, and we would begin to work up from there. And using language processing principles really helped us do that.
Okay, now it's time to talk about impact areas. So you guys have on your handout our guide for client-specific intervention. We've walked through etiology and profile. If you look at your handout, now we're going to talk about impact. So I'm going to ask Beth the questions and see how her client is currently impacted in the following areas. Is auditory comprehension a concern for Maddox at this time?
Yes.
How about oral expression?
Yes.
EF and cognitive?
Yes.
Speech?
Yes.
Social?
Yes.
Behavior?
Yes.
Sensory?
Yes.
Written expression?
Yes.
Reading comprehension?
Yes. Do you see a trend?
I do see a trend.
We've never had that before.
No.
We've never had a client where we felt like every area was being impacted, and it was something that we needed to address immediately.
Yeah, because usually we can kind of prioritize, but
Yes.
he's across the board.
He's across the board.
So since there's so many areas that are impacted, what impairments most impact daily functioning, do you think?
I feel like the behavior regulation definitely became our primary focus. He needed to be able to control his regulation, his behavior, his attention, his focus, if we were going to get anything else done. So I think behavioral regulation so that he could participate. And then also, I feel like his needs were, we need to address the processing.
Okay. What activities are most important for the client at this time?
If you asked school and parents, and I think us as well, we would say we need verbal communication so that he can respond. I think that's the most important thing that we need to develop. Verbal communication so that he can respond.
I think about him not talking at all in school. Like, how does he even show what he knows? I
Yeah.
mean, that would be so hard, I think, as a classroom teacher to be able to deal with that and for
Yeah.
him to be able, participation is a huge part of staying focused and
Yeah.
being attentive, and he's not participating. That makes that part even more challenging for
Well, and I think that all day his anxiety amped up because he knew that he was being asked questions and not responding. So I think that that made it really even more difficult. By the time he gets here, he comes to like around a 4 o'clock session. It's the opposite. He's like bouncing off the walls, which also means that he cannot participate appropriately. So yeah, there's a lot, and this has been going on for years.
What current characteristics hinder the client the most?
Regulation and I think expressive language.
And what current characteristics are strengths to build on?
He's super creative. He loves to be silly. I would call him a little immature in his humor, but he loves humor. He loves to draw stories and then try to talk about those stories. And I think vocabulary is probably a strength of his. And right now, currently, we've got some growing confidence that's coming, which I think is also a strength. One thing that you see on your screen that I did not say in responding to your questions, is that, after his full team diagnostic here, by the psychologist, we did do ADHD combined type, but we also, labeled that characteristics of selective mutism. Again, over my 20 years, I mean, this may be the second client I've ever had that I would have said, and it took me a minute when it came up in kind of conversations. I was like, wait a minute, is that what I'm seeing here? But I think he is a clear evidence of what we would call selective mutism.
And the anxiety that,
Yeah.
compounds all of that.
Yeah.
With the impact, you mentioned reading comprehension and written expression. We hadn't mentioned yet that he does have an IEP at school for his therapies, but he's also received some special education services, right?
Yes.
He's in a resource room.
Yes, he comes out for everything but math, I believe he
Okay.
comes out for. And I think that they would say math is maybe a little bit of a strength for him. However, I don't think I think all of his work is being modified.
And does he have trouble with written work? Does he refuse to do that, or will he do that to participate?
He will write words to respond. They've kind of established that as his only way of responding at school. So he will write words, and he will write out full sentences. However, we've got some syntax issues. So I wouldn't say complete or complex, but he will write some sentences to attempt to describe some of his pictures.
Okay.
Okay, so just a quick reminder about processing. And most of the information that I'm going to talk about with regard to kind of definitions of processing come from Gail Richards' Source for Processing book. There is a source for processing, and then there's also an auditory and language processing book through Source that also is very useful. So just a reminder that most language disorders result from some kind of processing difficulty. The thing is they manifest differently along that continuum. So what looks like an expressive language, an expressive syntax disorder, is actually probably manifesting from that language processing disorder. So just keep in mind that it's kind of the umbrella piece, and then you'll have some of these other language disorders under that umbrella. Processing difficulties result in academic problems, reading, spelling. These kids often have splintered skills, and we're going to talk a little bit about why that might be. And also written language is often difficult. So language processing, as a reminder, is the ability to interpret or attach meaning to auditorily received information and then formulate and express a response. So it's from everything, what I take in, to how I organize it in my brain, how I retrieve it, and then how I use it for something like expressive responding. So it encompasses everything, which meets the needs of this client. So where do we start? Need to familiarize yourself with the processing continuum. Must begin with simple and discrete skills and gradually increase those in complexity when the client is ready. This is just not the time to teach errors from a test. So it's a big mistake that people often make, and you can see how you might get lost. I gave you 8 or 10 tests that we had given this child. How would I decide where I was going to go and start working? And I think that happened, in this case a little bit too, until we really kind of said we need to try that language processing test at that one word level and determine where we are, where the breakdown is, before we move on to something like a comprehensive assessment like the CASTLE. We need to follow a plan that follows a hierarchy of skills from easy and isolated to more complex and integrated. But you definitely need to make that transition at some point, but not before they can handle it. You must work at the second functional unit. We've got the primary, the secondary, and the tertiary zones that we need to be thinking about. That second functional unit is where that processing occurs. That's where the attaching the meaning to it, organizing it so that we can then move into that integration in the tertiary zone. So again, attaching meaning, organization, using experiences, using associations, using auditory, visual, and physical cues is where we need to be working with clients like Maddox. So again, from the source for language processing, some of the principles that need to be thought about as you are developing your intervention and to help guide you through the intervention are very similar to kind of some of the concepts I just talked about. But we need to really figure out where the client needs to start. Where is their breakdown? Again, I mentioned that language processing test. It really helps, moving from associations to categories to similarities and differences to all the way to attributes, multiple meaning words, trying to figure out how they can, where they are having that breakdown, because they can't do one skill unless they have that precursor skill. This is definitely a hierarchy model, a hierarchical model that we need to be following. So determine the earliest level where they have difficulty, and that's where you want to start. What are the prerequisite skills that we have to do to get to the next skill? And we want to make sure that that is solidified, not just 60% or even maybe 80%. It needs to be solid before we move on. We want to make sure that we're using multimodal stimulation, scaffolding, breaking things down, and then building things back up. We need to really promote brain organization and reorganization. Sometimes you have to really teach how you would store something in your brain. And we all know how we do it and how we retrieve information. And we need to make it our goal to figure out how they organize things, where they organize things, and make sure we're using that in our therapy to help them retrieve. We need to teach compensatory strategies that they can use and share those strategies with classroom teachers, with parents, so that they don't get frustrated when they're at home or in the classroom. And then we need to practice and generalize those tasks that are functional, more than just drilling. I mentioned at the very beginning that we're going to do some of those discrete tasks that look a lot like drill, but we want to make sure that we're practicing them in a way that they can generalize to a variety of tasks throughout their day.
I love the emphasis here on the hierarchy model and thinking about that and making sure that you're really solidifying those precursor skills, and also with the brain organization and reorganization. I think, if you're working in that hierarchy, you are helping them make those strong connections to be able to retrieve that information. If you're starting with, just from labeling objects to then figuring out what the functions are and then making associations, you're building connections. In categories, you're building even more connections so that they can quickly retrieve that information. I think that I remember telling students this one time, I'm like, can you imagine going home and saying, yeah, I helped reorganize a kid's brain today? I mean, that's what you're doing
Yeah.
with language processing therapy, is you're helping them put those things in folders so that they can accurately retrieve them and efficiently retrieve them by
Yeah.
making as many connections as possible. And if you start way up here in the hierarchy and haven't built down here, that retrieval is going to be not efficient.
And also, you have to go through those steps. And I think I have missed those steps in the past. These kids don't know where to start. And you have to teach them where to start with that organization. So you may have to draw it out. So everything you just said about making these connections, you may need to draw it out on a paper. You may need to get up and you may need to pretend like you're walking through the grocery store so that you can start to kind of organize, everything that is in the dairy section, everything that's in the fruit section. I know how to do that because I don't have a language processing disorder. But if I do that for this client, they're never going to be able to move on to the next skill because they didn't learn how to organize it themselves. So this is very intentional. And it needs a lot of variety in the way that you are teaching it so that you can find that right connection or right fit. And one of the other things we're going to talk about that kind of reminds me of what you said is, the EET that we talked about earlier, we use a little visual that's kind of like that, but the bottom line of the EET is what else do you know? Sometimes people skip that bottom line, and for language processing therapy, it's really the most important line. I sometimes start there. Tell me what you know about an apple, and then we'll work through all of the different category or, describe it. What's it look like? Where do you find it? What's it made of? All of those things. But sometimes I start with what do you know about it? That's where I start, but it's down at the bottom and sometimes we don't even get there. But it's a really important thing for these kids to learn from experiences that are personal to them.
So expanding expressions tool is what EET is and can be very useful for these language processing kids.
Can you sing the song?
Nope.
Blue dew, green group. What does it look like? Oh, I don't have the tune again. I can't. I don't think
I should have prepared.
You would have been great.
I would have been ready. One more thing before we move on from the slide. Are you going to sing?
No, I can't do it. I can't do it.
Your point on the previous slide about not teaching isolated skills from tests. I mean, I think this is another reason that you can't do that. You've got to follow this hierarchy, and pulling out one thing from a subtest that they were not good at does not address those foundational skills. And so you're really just causing more splinter skills in these kids, and it's not helping them, be organized in their brain and to be able to retrieve information. So
definitely.
Okay.
Okay. So coming to current day, Maddox, we went through all of those things, all of those principles that we just talked about, all of the labeling functions, associations, categories. We've gone through kind of all those. We're actually working at similarities and differences right now, but we are tying into it syntax. One of the additional kind of problems that we have with this client is that he doesn't have a lot of experience for verbal communication, right? For expressive language, because he's now 10 years old and he's had limited opportunities or experiences in putting words together in a grammatically correct sentence. So also looking back at those precursors for language processing disorder, one line said, slow syntactic development with persistent error patterns. He's 10 and we still have significant syntactic developmental problems. So right now, that is one of our primary focuses with Maddox. And I wanted to just say why. Why are we focusing on this? Again, with the organization, structure is needed if you're going to guess what is needed for responding to a question. If I just talked through this with a colleague of mine over some text messages last week, and her example was, if I say the apple fell off the
tree,
I mean, you know exactly what part of speech I need a noun. You know how to make the association between the apple and the tree. So You know where we find an apple. You know all of these things. Structure and syntax is also an important piece of being able to guess what a response might be.
Love that.
I know.
That
Isn't
makes
that
so much
really
sense.
good? So you really have to understand the rules of grammar to know how to respond. So not just teaching the vocabulary words, but parts of speech. And this client has never, I mean, he's 10 years old. And when we started this, we're like, what's a noun? I don't know. What's a verb? I don't know. I mean, he knows nouns and verbs, but he really didn't know how to predict what might be coming. So relationships of word meanings are really needed to generate a grammatically correct sentence. You have to make sense of categories of words and word orders. We've been spending a lot of time on grammar. We've been spending a lot of time on generating sentences. We've even been spending a lot of time just on repeating a 7-word sentence that we say and that he includes all of the little words. Typically, his response would be, out of those 7 words, he might just include 3. He would leave out your prepositions. He would leave out articles. He would leave out, none of the I don't know, specific non-fun words, right? He just wanted to say the nouns and the verb. So I have to have that if it's going to make sense to another listener. So otherwise I'm filling in all those blanks. So if I'm going to respond to a question specifically, if I'm going to tell a detailed story, or if I'm going to join in a conversation, I need all of the syntax, all of the grammar, all of the little words to make this make sense. And so right now, Maddox is in the 4th grade, and we are teaching him about syntax because we feel like that's where we are in his language processing continuum.
Love it.
So we have 3 areas of goals: regulation, syntax, and language processing. So just a quick look at kind of the things that we're focusing on with regulation. This kid still needs whole body listening. He needs awareness of what his body is doing and how he can be a better listener. So one of our goals is just that he's going to demonstrate the whole body listening that we have taught him. When we give instructions, he needs to kind of self-regulate and know that he's supposed to be listening and potentially repeating back what we ask him. He also needs to initiate use of self-advocacy strategies because his go-to response is, I don't know, which is another key kind of indicator of language processing. I don't know doesn't always mean I don't know. And that's another one of your jobs, is to figure out what I don't know means. Does it mean that they don't actually know? Does it mean that they didn't hear you? Does it mean that they're thinking, but they need more time? Or does it mean that I know what it is, it's on the tip of my tongue, but I can't pull it,
Yeah.
So what is it? So we teach some self-advocacy strategies like, I heard what you said. I'm trying to think of the word. Or I know it's an animal, but I can't think of which one. So we do a lot of the what do I know and what do I not know. Otherwise, your communication partner, teacher, peer, if you say, I don't know, they're going to shut it down right there. They're going to move on to the next person. And then again, you're not getting any experience in trying to kind of find where you have that information organized. For syntax, a few of our goals are, after hearing a descriptive sentence of 7 or more words, the client will independently repeat it using all words in correct word order, including articles, grammar, verb tense, and morphology. Oftentimes he will tend to leave off plurals and doesn't even think about it. And we know it's really important to have those things on there to make the sentence specific. Client will label parts of speech when provided a sentence. So we are breaking this down specifically into what are the pointer words. That's what we have found that works for him. We do glue words, we do pointer words, we do nouns, and you're going to see a couple of videos of that as we move on for intervention. And then also, given a visual organizer and word bank, the client will build a complete and organized and syntactically complex sentence. There's a lot of things that he has to be able to do to get credit for that last goal. but that's going to be a little bit more independence now, where we give him kind of an organizer of a sentence and what it should look like. We'll also see an example of that. And then with language processing, we are at the level of, generating similarities and differences. Typically, he can do one, but that's not really enough. You need to be able to do at least 3 critical features for describing similarities. And we think that 2 right now is what he can handle for differences. And then also he has to state the ideas in a complete and specific sentence using a sentence starter. So instead of just saying, tell me 3 things that are the same between a banana and an apple, he can't just say fruit. He has to say a banana and an apple are the same because they are both fruit. And again, we like that structure. It's predictable, and we want him to start using complete sentences. Same thing for differences, an apple is red, but a banana is yellow. So he has to use that complete sentence in his response.
Okay, some specific methods that we're going to use in intervention you're going to see in these upcoming videos, so be on the lookout for them. Scaffolding, so break it down and build it back up, using visuals, graphic organizers, different colors and different shapes to represent things.
Yep.
Using sentence starters is huge. I think that gives them the structure and the syntax. We're using sentence starters with a kid we're using the EET with, and it has made a huge difference.
Yes.
Like knowing what to say. Repetitive lines, so using materials with that. Multimodal cues, prompts, incorporating movement. For this guy with ADHD, moving his body is super important. Teach persistence. I think they want to just say, I don't know, and give up, and knowing that it's okay to try again, giving them support to do that. Using their personal experiences that will help provide that context and provide further connections for that organization. Motivation and competition. Does he love competition?
He loves a competition. It makes him invested. I love a competition too. So they tried not to have me in the room during competition days because I don't let anybody win.
Is this the little guy that you raced out in the quad?
No.
Oh, okay. She had a race with one of her clients.
I actually didn't race. I just
was your
cheered. Remember, I'm
okay.
Yeah.
Use the client's strengths, of course, in therapy. Teach them the self-advocacy strategies across environments that Beth talked about a little bit ago. For example, stating what you know and what you don't know versus just saying, I don't know. Request additional thinking time. I think that's really important because everybody moves so quickly all the time, and asking for that is an important strategy. Teach them patience, don't rush them to frustration. So giving them time to come up with those responses without added pressure, which I think is important to share with teachers and parents. Overall, just building their confidence and supporting them. Repetition, redundancy in a variety of settings and situations, which you've tried to do through collaboration with the SLP.
Yes.
And of course with his parents.
Yes. And his parents do watch his sessions, and it helps so much for them to kind of see again where some of those breakdowns are. And then also when he comes out to be able to say, you did it today. I saw you do that. That was really good. Because parents see actually a different, client than we see here. I mean, they see him talking nonstop all the way here. And then when he gets here, he gets a little bit more quiet. And then he talks all the way home, and they're like, what's happening? So it was really important for them to see the differences. I don't think they have a clear enough picture of how silent he is throughout the school day. And I think that when he starts to do better here, I assume he's also doing better there. But when I check in, they're like, actually, no, he's still not really, it's November and he's still not really responding to his teachers. And they've been very accommodating with, allowing them to choose a teacher they think would be better for this, allowing him to have one of his friends in his class. I mean, they have really tried to do some of those things, but we're just not making the progress yet that he needs to meet that initial concern of participating and being successful in academics. We're just not there yet.
I think about his anxiety and how much that has to play into his
Yeah.
You know, even his word finding, he knows he struggles finding words. He knows he struggles answering questions. And then that anxiety just compounds
Oh, yeah.
everything. Poor guy.
Yeah, and by the way, for both he's unmedicated for both ADHD and anxiety at this point. Parents are just not ready to kind of go down that road. I feel like it could really help take the edge off of some of the things that we see. But I also think that we probably see him in one extreme, kind of at the end of the day, in his kind of worst attention, place, but I think it's almost just as bad to be completely shut down all day.
Absolutely.
Okay, so just an overview or kind of a summary, for methods for client-specific intervention. Just really think about specific and client-specific regulation methods that you might need, motivation and interest, and that's where I said, let's start with the what else do you know on that EET list. Reduce the cognitive load to increase success and confidence. And then every one of those visuals, whether it's movement, walking on the twister mat, which you're going to see, or stepping on an obstacle course as you're doing some of the things, repetition, practice, graphic organizers, sentence starters, all of those things are absolutely required to get the integration in that secondary and tertiary zone. To get that integration, you need all of those things. Okay, so we're going to end with several videos. So this first one is the first day that we really introduced whole body listening. There's lots of things for you to watch in this video. I think one of the things you're going to see is a lot of positive reinforcement from the clinician. You're going to see a lot of kind of his lack of focus and his fidgety behavior and his moving all around. So you're going to see, just like I said, the very first time we've introduced this whole idea of how to focus your attention to the person who's giving you instructions.
Have you ever heard of whole body listening? No. No? Well, what do you think it means? Whole body listening.
I don't know.
Keep your feet down real quick. You're not showing me whole body listening. That's why I'm going to teach it to you. Ready?
Yeah.
So, do you want to do some reading?
Yes.
Okay, look. What does it say for our eyes?
Try to look at the person talking to you.
So what does that mean?
I don't know.
When somebody's talking to you, we give them our eyes, right? So Miss Brianna is talking to me. Do you see me? Am I giving her? Am I giving her my eyes? Okay, now Miss Brianna, can you talk to me again?
Miss Ashley, what color is your favorite color?
Am I giving her my eyes?
Yes. No.
No. Okay, so when somebody's talking, we need to give them our eyes. We need to look at them. Okay, what's the next one?
Ears of ears breathing to hear.
So what do? We put on our elephant ears, right?
No.
We put on our elephant ears. Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. And then our mouth. You're good at this. You're good at a lot of these things, but we're going to keep working on it.
Okay.
Okay? Our mouth, when somebody is talking, our mouth is quiet, and we don't talk or hum or make sounds. Right? Hands are quiet in our laps or our pockets or at our sides. There you go. And then feet. Our feet are quiet on the floor. Looks like your feet are quiet on the floor. Mm-hmm. And then body. Oh, are your feet quiet on the floor?
No.
That's okay. They don't need to always be that way. Just when we're listening to instruction, okay? Okay. Yeah. Brain. What do you think the brain does?
Thinking about what is being said.
That's a big one. We want to think. We want to use our brain and think about what's being said.
What is this?
Caring.
You're caring about what the other person is saying.
Maddox, you're so good at reading. You're so good at reading.
Obviously not rocket science.
Okay.
Just
so
starting to
we use our
increase
eyes
awareness.
to look. our ears to listen,
and also allows us something to refer to when we, see something. We're like, oh, are you thinking about your whole body listening? So I think just a very simple thing to integrate into your.
Have you ever heard of?
Okay. For this little clip, I want you to think about, some regulation tasks that we're doing to try to help him. And we talk a lot about focus. She will refer back to the whole body listening, and she'll also have him repeat instructions. So this is just a good example of him doing some movement and a little bit of attention shifting you're going to see here in this video.
And I'm a little blue dot. That's what it said this time.
Okay, are you ready?
Yep.
Okay, so every time you take a step, I want you to say the color,
Okay.
just like we did it last time. And remember, we want to use our focusing brain. Yeah, sounds good. Okay, go. Nice! High five.
I think
Super
he
awesome.
was saying all the
Great
colors
job.
as he's
Great
going,
job.
I love how
but
you're really
it's
focused.
very difficult to know.
Again?
Yep.
Go.
Yellow. Red.
Good job. Do you feel, okay, so when you're looking at it and you see the color, you're focusing the whole time. You're doing such a good job. Got it?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So now the next one. Do you remember what we did last time? We did. Oh, you're gonna switch it up.
Oh, you don't want the two greens next to each other?
Okay. I like it. I like your thinking. Okay. Now, when you step on it, I want you to say an object that of the color. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So every time you step on a color, you're gonna say an object of that
Okay.
color.
Okay.
Difficult instructions.
Melon. Banana. Cherry. Grapes. Orange. Sky. Parrot. So.
He did sky, carrot,
job.
sun,
You
but
did
then
some good
before
thinking on that one.
he did orange.
What did
So
you
he
say?
does
What did
still
you
have
say
a
for
little
this
trouble
last
with
one?
that shifting.
The sun. Oh, that's a good one. I like it.
But it's
Do you want to do the same thing on the way back? Okay, go.
That helps kind of
Give me some new ones.
practice
Give me some
that
new ones.
focus. Okay.
And I'm a little.
Okay. You'll hear whole body listening, I think, in this one, some self-advocacy. This is also focus and repetition. You're going to see her giving instructions, two-step instructions, but that's not our goal. Our goal is to repeat back the instruction and then execute the task.
Put the pig on red. Not yet. And put the dog on green.
Put the pig on red. Put the dog on green.
I like that you repeated me. That was great.
Put the pig on red. Put the dog on green.
Perfect.
Such improvement for him.
Okay. Are you ready for the next one?
Wait.
And we're going to use our whole body listening.
Yep.
I like seeing your eyes. Are you ready?
Yep.
Oh, can you put your feet on the floor?
Okay.
Ready?
Yep.
Put the sheep on yellow. Not yet. And
On yellow.
put the chicken on red.
Put the sheep on yellow. Put the chicken on red.
Good job.
Okay, so we love that kind of
Mhm.
practice.
Put the pig.
Okay, same activity here, same day, but I want to show you a little bit of how they work in the syntax.
Animals again.
Okay.
Okay? Do you remember how we walked across last time when we said the sentences?
Yep.
I have new sentences for us.
Okay.
Oh, medic. Alarm's gonna go off.
We'd already made the alarm go
All right.
off once, I did.
Okay.
When he locked himself
Are you
in
ready?
the room.
What color do you want to go on first? Blue. Okay. Come stand on the word twister.
Okay. Twist.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So for your first sentence, Maddox, ready? Whole body listening. I need you to stand. I need you to stand on your feet. Stand on your feet, please.
So you can see this is a
Are we
constant
using our
problem,
listening ears?
or I
Oh,
would
you can
say
sit like that, that's
barrier to what we're trying to
Okay,
get done.
I'm
right?
gonna say a sentence.
It's different than it is in the
That is
classroom. He's got different kinds of difficulties
Should I
in the
come closer?
classroom, but for our 45
Okay,
minutes here,
I'm gonna
it's
say a
very
sentence.
difficult for him.
And you're gonna say it back to me, okay?
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yep.
The dragon eats pizza every night.
The dragon eat pizza every night.
Yes, the dragon eats pizza every night. Now you're gonna step on one dot for every word.
Dragon's not real.
You're right, dragon are real. Okay, ready? Do you remember the sentence?
Yes.
What is it?
Dragon always eats the pizza.
Close! It was very close. Let's try it again. Ready? I'm gonna tell you the sentence. The dragon eats pizza every night.
The dragon eats pizza every.
Perfect!
That was great.
job!
Fire.
You used your whole body listening. That was great. Okay.
Okay.
Are you ready for the next one?
A couple of other
Okay.
examples in this clip that I don't know if we'll have time to get to because I want to show you the others, is that he will leave out some of those articles, and she's very picky. She makes him go back and redo it to include all of those. He did not get the S on that word, and I would have made him to get that plural.
Almost again.
Okay, a little bit about structure.
You'll have to tell me a story about it.
Do you have it?
Maybe.
What does it look like?
I don't know.
What's the interest?
I don't know.
You might be able to find out if you focus.
Ready? So our pointing words point to people, places, and things. Okay? So it's
He
a,
does a little lesson and
or
reminding
the,
him about glue words
right?
and pointing
Because
words.
we usually, right? Addicts. Because on Thursday, tell me, which one is our glue word? Our glue word is
On.
good. Our glue word is on. I'm gonna write on the yellow one. On.
He does not think he should be writing on those.
I am drawing on it. Okay, hang on. Pause. You'll get to play with this in a second. Can you tell me what my pointing word is?
No.
What? Oh, what's our point?
A.
What is our pointing word here?
A.
On the board.
The.
The is our pointing word. So our pointing word is
Okay, so he gets all of his nouns, verbs, and then
sentence, and you need to put them in order.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Okay. Yeah.
George slept on the couch.
George slept on couch. George slept on the couch.
High five, rocking it. You said that perfectly, and you put them all in order. And we use. You'll have to.
okay.
Love the next
Okay, are you
one.
ready?
That's awesome.
I know. This is just a little clip of him doing some similarities and differences using, you can see the visual there for that looks like the ET. And then also you can see next to that, we have that sentence structure of an apple is red and a blah, blah, blah. Actually it says a blank is, and sometimes he'll say a blank is blank and a blank is, and he thinks that's really funny. Okay, I want to get to
Sugar.
this was him. I think this is the last one.
Make a sentence.
So now we've advanced to him building his own sentences. He has a word bank on all of, it's still the colors that we've used before, and still the same noun, verb, pointer word, glue word. He's pulling those from the word bank and making his own sentence.
Where's
Their bed.
He
where
wanted
would
the word
be?
bed.
I don't think we have bed. What kind of word is bed?
Green.
Yeah, it is a green
Because
word.
it's a green
We don't
word,
have
which
bed.
is a noun.
Looks like we have other words though.
Yeah, others like school, elephant, you have house,
Chair.
Chair.
for sure.
See what sentence he gets.
The pencil fell on the chair. Chair.
That's a great sentence. You wanna make it? Make the sentence.
So he made it with the little slips of paper, and now he's building it on his
Pencil
magazine.
green. Well,
Yes, pencil is green. You're right.
fell is blue.
Mm-hmm.
Fell is a verb, so it's flew, he said.
Okay. The pencil fell on the chair. The pencil fell on the chair. The pencil fell on the chair.
Perfect.
High five. Okay. Whose turn is it to make a sentence?
Okay, so you
Oh,
can
Miss
see
Brown.
that we kind of
Make a
moved
sentence.
from, pointing them out and helping him walk through the sentence to him making his own, which I think we're going to be able to accomplish that goal by the end of this semester here in the clinic. Okay, I think, gosh, we're
Time for
out of
questions.
time. Let's look at some questions. Let's see. Isn't that
Syntactic.
syntax? Yes, and hopefully we were able to kind of answer that question for you that it is syntax, but that's all under the language processing umbrella for him.
Or that was the castle.
You're helping
Syntax.
me.
Index.
So you said
That's it.
I know. What was the other one? SLI.
It was a sigh. Anyway,
Okay, thanks for helping. Let's see.
monolingual household.
It is. He's got some grandparents that speak some Spanish every now and then when they're around, but really, yes. Weighted vest ever been tried with him? I don't think so. I did was telling you that we've done some fidgets, and we've also done some like things on the desk. They tried this at school too, some like sensory things on the desk. I didn't get to show you the videos long enough for you to see that he still puts things in his mouth. He chews on his shirt. He always likes to mark everything out with like his finger on the dry erase. But no, we have not tried a weighted vest to my knowledge with him. I don't know if they've done that at school. Comments about it's hard to know where to begin. It definitely is, and that's why that language processing continuum could really help kind of guide you in choosing that. Again, I mentioned a couple times the language processing test. And I some people don't love that test because it is only at a 1-word level, but I think when you're starting out to really know where the breakdown is, it is a good assessment to give. Something like the comprehensive assessment of spoken language, we oftentimes will give for kids with processing problems, but that's a very difficult test, probably way too far advanced for him. Also, the TILS is another good test for some language processing. You saw that I gave the CTOP as well for looking at phonological processing. And again, maybe it's the cognitive load. I think it is the cognitive load. However, I think his verbal IQ is probably within normal limits. I think potentially, I want to say when the psych did it, his IQ might have been like 88. I think it's on low average, but I think it is average. But he's so overwhelmed by all the other things that he's not able to kind of even use his cognitive resources in that moment. Let's see.
The colored tiles are called magnetiles. So they have magnets, you can build things with them, but this is a great way to use it for sentence structure.
Yeah, and you can write on them, even though the kids will kind of freak out a little bit when you do it, but they just come right off. So that's nice. People are thinking about their own clients. I think that's wonderful. That's exactly why we do it. Such a dynamic child. And he reminds of a student from clinical practicum. Yeah, I think the purpose of this whole idea for language processing, it's something you've known for a long time as speech language pathologists, but to just remind yourself the impact of processing and how it manifests in so many of our language disorders. And we need to always be thinking back to kind of those client-specific guiding principles. Okay. All right. What's the ICD-9 code for language processing disorder? I have no idea.
I would think it would fall under expressive language.
Oh, I didn't read the second part.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it could. All right. I think that we might have gotten through all of those.
Okay. Well, thank you all for joining us. Remember, if you're joining us live and your state requires live CEUs, to fill out the sections on the course content page before the end of today on your Speech Therapy PD account. And please join us next month. Actually, I think it's in January, our next and final case study for our EPIC series. So we hope to see you all there.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Enjoy your family and food and friends. All right, we'll see you later.